What if George Russell traded silver for red? What if Sergio Pérez went back to where it all started? The F1 universe may be on the verge of a huge driver overhaul, with whispers of surprise transactions including Red Bull, Mercedes, and even Aston Martin. In one of the most unexpected storylines of the upcoming silly season, George Russell has been linked with a sensational move to Red Bull Racing. While at first glance this might seem implausible, dig a little deeper and you'll discover just how real, and potentially game-changing, this scenario could become. But here's the catch. The destiny of this possible exchange doesn't solely rest in Russell's hands. It seems the actual power rests with Max Verstappen and his former Red Bull teammate, Sergio Pérez. Imagine this: George Russell, the Mercedes prospect and former darling to take over from Lewis Hamilton, switching teams to Red Bull. And then Sergio Pérez, whose seat at Red Bull has been under intense pressure, pulling off a shock move to Mercedes. It's not a trade. It's a role swap that can revive old rivalries with a fresh spin. So, what must take place for Russell to be clad in Red Bull red, and for Perez to be fitted in silver once more? More to the point, how big is the Verstappen element in all of this? Let's start with Verstappen. The world champion of the moment, once seemingly unbeatable at Red Bull, is now in a troubled spot. The team that dominated the early part of this regulatory era is now falling behind. And Max, with his laser-like attention to victory, is said to be contemplating life beyond Milton Keynes. Dr. Helmut Marko, Red Bull's advisor, confirmed that Verstappen's contract includes an exit clause. If the team can't deliver a top-2 car by the summer break, Verstappen can walk away, on his own terms. That clause might become the trigger for the biggest chain reaction we've seen in Formula One's modern era. Two teams are said to be queuing up as suitors for Verstappen: Aston Martin and Mercedes. Mercedes would be the natural choice, with their record in the turbo-hybrid era. But Aston Martin is the wild card, funded by deep money, state-of-the-art facilities, and now powered by Honda from 2026 onwards. Throw in Adrian Newey's reported involvement and a whopping $300 million, three-year deal from Lawrence Stroll, and Aston Martin becomes a force to be reckoned with. For Verstappen, it's an attractive proposition: a number one driver, a non-competitive teammate in Lance Stroll, and the complete force of Honda engineering. If Verstappen does indeed pull the trigger and departs from Red Bull, then the Austrian team will be in uncharted waters, without a captain. With no junior driver such as Ayumu Iwasa or Isaac Hadjar waiting in the wings, Red Bull would have to call on an old head replacement, someone who can guide the team into the new era from 2026. George Russell fills that role. Internal sources indicate that talks have already been held between Red Bull and Russell's team. And the timing is logical. If Mercedes turns its attention to securing Verstappen, Russell's place in the team is no longer secure. He might no longer be the long-term leader Toto Wolff had in mind, particularly with young guns like Andrea Kimi Antonelli moving quickly up the ranks. Indeed, the speed at which Antonelli is improving has already begun to darken Russell's prospects. The teenager from Italy, barely out of Formula 2, is making indications that he might be the next big deal. That's why Russell's contract extension hasn't yet materialized, albeit amid assurances from Toto Wolff and the team in public. Sky Sports commentator Martin Brundle even commented, "It's strange that a driver of Russell's ability is to be left contractless going into the last part of the season. There is obviously more behind it than is being said." Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the paddock, Sergio Pérez's case is no less complicated. The Mexican driver has been under a lot of pressure because of disappointing performances in the RB19. But with hindsight, and good performances from Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson in the RB20, it's now apparent that Red Bull's car might not be as overwhelming as it appears. Pérez's flexibility has always been the subject of discussion. His distinctive driving style does not always go hand in hand with cars built around Verstappen's tastes. Nevertheless, in spite of the criticism, his market value is still sky high. Cadillac, which is entering Formula One in the next seasons, has expressed keen interest in Perez. They understand his commercial value in the US market, his experience, and his potential to attract huge sponsorship to any team he joins. But surprisingly, Mercedes is now surfacing as another contender. As Motorsport.com reported, Mercedes has not eliminated Perez as a serious candidate, particularly if Verstappen comes aboard and they require a seasoned second driver. That would be an interesting twist. Perez, who was once passed over for a Mercedes seat, now possibly back at the team as a major player in its future. Cadillac, though still in its formative stages, has already had initial discussions with Perez, specifically over the Miami Grand Prix weekend. Their bosses, including former F1 driver and now Cadillac's motorsport director, are said to be eager to surround him with a team. But if a Mercedes seat comes up, It could be too tempting an offer for Perez to resist. And then there is the dark horse, Alpine. Under Flavio Briatore's stewardship, Alpine is in the midst of a strategic reorganization. With Jack Doohan apparently under threat and Franco Colapinto receiving the summons, Alpine is evidently re-evaluating its driver pool. They require stability and experience, two attributes Perez possesses in great measure. With Mercedes engines and the aim of robust midfield competitiveness, Alpine might be a good fit for Perez. Flavio Briatore, master of the dramatic moves and measured gambles, appreciates the commercial and competitive worth of Perez. It would not be a surprise to have him make a genuine bid for the Mexican veteran. So, what does it all add up to? Let's say Verstappen leaves Red Bull for Aston Martin. Red Bull needs a proven race winner to anchor their team. George Russell, facing a squeeze at Mercedes due to Antonelli's rise and Verstappen's arrival, is the perfect candidate. At the same time, Mercedes needs a reliable, experienced second driver who can support Antonelli while also contributing valuable feedback and performance. Enter Sergio Pérez. In the meantime, Alpine and Cadillac loom large in the wings, waiting to pick up the pieces from the remaining drivers when the music goes on. It's a situation that might redefine the F1 grid of today. And let's not forget, this isn't all about driver ability. It's about contracts, clauses, power struggles, sponsorships, and commercial clout. It's about Verstappen potentially departing Red Bull. It's about George Russell regaining his momentum. And it's about Sergio Pérez finally getting the accolades and team he deserves. The 2025 F1 silly season could well be the most dramatic ever. Russell in red, Perez in silver once more, and Verstappen in green? Anything can happen when the dominoes begin to tip. What do you think? Should Mercedes commit fully to Max Verstappen and return Perez as a steady hand? Or will Russell remain and battle for his seat? Leave your comments below, and don't miss out on the next video coming onto your screen. You won't want to miss what is in store next in Formula 1.